What we are. By Caligastia Lanonandek. Mankind and angels have many points of commonality. In fact, our similarities are far greater than our dissimilarities. The point of existence is our greatest. This purpose is threefold: service to Creator Father, service to the Creator Son, service to each other. Notably absent from these three dues is service to self. This missing element serves purpose to the foundation of what angels in general are, and what mankind strives to be: loving, tolerant, and compassionate. These three higher emotional aspects are functions of the soul, as no higher emotion is possible except through the soul. Love is giving to others without any expectation of reward except the joy inherent in the giving. A person who says, "I'll love you if," has not the slightest idea of what the word means or the state of being attendant to it. He bargains with the attitude of a merchant who buys and sells a commodity. Love is not a bargaining. It is a granting. It is a sad statement that many relationships between men and women are based upon such bargains. It also serves purpose to note that this is the main reason many marriages fail. Love is something you are, not something you negotiate for. Yet, we must also take note that as children we learn from our parents' examples. If they did not love people, how then are we expected to learn what they couldn't teach? Learning to love is like any other skill. At first, it seems an insurmountable task. I've seen many of the New Age variety running around saying, "I love you," to others to the point the words are trite and meaningless. Love is not found in a saying. Ask any child who has been abused. Does he believe the declarations of "I love you" when he's being beaten? No, he believes the action. If action and word are not the same, this child will believe what he sees done, not what is offered in hypocrisy. If word and deed are the same, then one serves to verify and enhance the feeling of love given and received. It ain't what you say, it's what you do. To take the first steps at learning to love, I offer this simple exercise. Do 3 good deeds a day for someone you have nothing to gain anything from, and do them every day. This does not have to be anything grandiose and can be as simple as picking up a piece of litter or opening a door. In all cases, however, the acts must be something wherein you do not receive anything except, perhaps, the simple thank you of the individual you performed the act for. This does not require money. It is not $20 given to a charity. Nor does it require that you indulge in stupidity, giving things that you cannot afford to give. It requires only that you give of yourself a service to your fellow man without reward. Ask yourself, is my life filled? Most will say not. If your emotional voids have not been filled with something joyful, can you blame anyone else but yourself? Certainly, those who refuse to take responsibility for their own actions find no lack of people to blame. Yet, in the end, their lives are still as empty as before. What point is there in indulging in behavior that produces no agreeable result? One must accept that what is, for whatever reason, and move on from there. Of the 3 emotions, love, tolerance, and compassion, compassion is the greatest, for love and tolerance beget compassion. In any civilization we will always find individuals gifted in the art of aggravating us. It is only when we step back and realize that we all exist in our own evolutionary moment, and that some have traveled a greater distance than we have and others a lesser interval, that we begin to understand the concept of tolerance. In this, we also realize that there was a time when we were the lesser and required the patience of others that had to deal with us. Tolerance is a difficult state to acquire. Not so much that it is hard to affect, but because it requires that we have a clear sight of ourselves. Those who are disinclined to honest self-evaluation will hide behind defensive devices to avoid recognition that we are less than we can be. So many psychiatrists and psychologists are employed solely because we cannot accept ourselves as we are and then grow onward from that point. This lack of self-acceptance results in inner turmoil and conflict. These beget the multitude of neurotic and psychotic mental states that plague mankind. In the acceptance of one's own self, one can come to an understanding of others. An understanding of those who are of a similar nature to ourselves because we've stood in their shoes at one time or another comes first. Then, because we have acquired the skill of empathy, we can project ourselves into the shoes of those in whose footfalls we have not walked. Finally, when our journey has been completed and we have become truly tolerant, a seemingly miraculous change occurs in us and we find that compassion has surfaced. Compassion is not a momentary pang for a homeless person. Nor is it a feeling of sorrow for a handicapped individual. It is the possession of clear-sightedness in knowing what another person needs and then being willing to do what is possible. Would it be compassionate to give a compulsive gambler a loan of several $100s so he could gamble? Any reasonable person would say no. If you've been one that has endured a compulsive behavior, or even an addiction, then your empathy to the point would require you to realize that there is little you can do for this individual until he is ready to do something for himself. On the other hand, if you saw a man standing in a freezing rain with no shoes or socks, would not an act of compassion be to give him a pair of shoes and socks knowing that you have others at home? In scriptural terms, Jesus gave a similar lesson. If you have 2 cloaks and you find a man who has none, give him one of yours. Implied in the story is an admonition against stupidity. Clearly, you will have need for a cloak for yourself and it would be injudicious to suffer the elements, get sick and die. The journey from love to compassion begins with simple acts. The person who begins with the 3 good deeds a day will find that they will become ingrained. Soon, he will not have to focus on the forced doing of them as they will quickly become a part of what he is. He'll find that in learning how to love others, he will have opened himself to the possibility of receiving love from others. At some point in the quest the person will ask himself, why the hell should I do this when all I run into are people who crap on me? Here our intrepid traveler has lost the focus of what he is doing. He is doing good for others because he wants to be a good person. As such, he is his own reward. Those who expect aggrandizement from others will continually be doomed to disappointment as they have no ability to alter the evolutionary moment of anyone else, only their own. There is a mindset out there that will say, why should I change unless I can have an expectation that others will do X, Y, and Z for me? Such an individual is lost to the possibility of love. He feels that giving is little more than a manipulation performed for a purpose. Would we then preach the errors of his ways attempting to alter him his course of self-absorption? Once the offering of betterment has been made and rejected, tolerance demands acceptance of this individual's evolutionary moment. So many religious organizations, who profess to be Christian, would deem this individual to be unacceptable and would render him outcast from their company. It has always amazed me that those who best know the words of Jesus are also so lacking in the basic tolerances he taught. On the other hand, if the same individual was not ostracized but brought closer to those who could be actual examples, would he not be in a better position to learn by the examples of those who practice what they preach? This is tolerance. If this same individual, however, became belligerent and disruptive to the degree he was injurious to others or himself, then adherence to the stupidity rule would require that he be separated from the body, but with the clear understanding that if and when he was willing to meet behavioral standards he would be welcomed back, then this also is an exercise in applied tolerance. As with any other skill, these abilities take time to develop. Like Jacob's ladder, each new circumstance that presents itself offers the traveler another opportunity to climb a rung in the journey towards compassion and, ultimately, towards their own ascension. Those who are love-starved have no perspective enabling them to see beyond their own wants. This individual will usually take with both hands, putting nothing back. It is a given that resources are limited and few can indulge charity by throwing endlessly into a bottomless pit. We must again fall back upon the stupidity rule for guidance. The taker knows how to receive but lacks the ability of true appreciation for the gifts provided. It follows that gifts to such a soul are wasted and are injudicious of the giver. They are not an exercise in compassion, as the giver has divested himself of the responsibility for determining the true need of the recipient. Explicit in this discourse is an equation. Love equals tolerance equals compassion. These words are intended to inform, and it is hoped they will serve to inspire you to a doing, for it is by your actions you are judged.